All right, the best coffee I had while in Cincinnati, Ohio, and an interesting story about a coffee shop owner that you might not expect. All right, everybody, welcome back to another video. Again, if you like these videos and you're interested in coffee, you like riding bikes, be sure to click the little subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you get notified every time there's new content. The more subscribers you get, the more I can help create more content to help you create cafe quality coffee at home. So with that being said, I just spent a quick, call it 24 hours in the town of Cincinnati, Ohio. To my surprise, there's actually a lot of specialty coffee in and around the Cincinnati area. Being that I was only there for a short time, I kind of had to do pick through the ones and kind of do some research, look to some other resources to the ones that kind of had what appeared to be the best coffee offerings in Cincinnati. So I'll talk to you about the three that I went to and kind of my thoughts and which one I thought was the best. So if you watched my Seattle video, which I just also got back from Seattle, you'll notice in that one I talked about how I went to Storyville first, and Storyville in the Pike's Place Market was just this amazing experience, and it set up a really hard time for the rest of the cafes while I was in Seattle. I had the exact same experience. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a trend. It is a trend because it seems to always happen where the first one I go to kind of sets the tone for the rest of the shops, and it makes it really difficult for the other ones to compare. So in this case, I actually went to a shop in Newport, Kentucky. So if you're from Cincinnati, you know that as soon as you cross the river, you're in Kentucky. So in Newport, Kentucky, there's a shop called Cara, Bello. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but I actually have the t-shirt on. So yeah, like if you know, if you've watched these videos before, you'll know that the reason I have the t-shirt is that if you are a really good coffee shop, I love to support your brand and everything that you're doing, and especially ones that aren't in Colorado. And so it's almost like kind of going to a concert, right? I get the t-shirt, help spread the love of everything you're doing that's really awesome in your area. And for me, in the Cincinnati area, it was Cara Bello coffee was by far the best. So yeah, so that was the one where I bought the t-shirt from. So let's talk about why it was so great. First off, great neighborhood. Interesting thing about Cincinnati is it seems like it's kind of under this weird, it wasn't quite as friendly of a city as I thought it might have been, and I know all of you from Cincinnati might hammer me in the comments on this, but that's okay. Again, just my first impression of being there for 24 hours. However, in Newport, it was a really cool little area, great town, great location for a shop. And when I walked in, there were a couple things that I noticed right away about them, is that they have a really big facility, and one half of their facility is like their roasting lab. So they've got this cool, I'm not sure if they do classes there or not, but it looks like they teach people how to do espresso. Maybe they have people that are thinking about competing in the World Barista Championships, but they have this cool coffee lab that's very open to the public. So you can sit around it. It'd be interesting to see, a lot of specialty coffee shops are getting into cupping, so you can kind of taste how different coffees compare to each other, and it really help open your palate up to understanding specialty coffee. So I'm sure that's something that they probably do there. But they had this really cool coffee lab next to their roaster, and it was just a really cool space off to the left. The other thing is that when I walked in, the build out's really cool. It was kind of it reminded me of like almost a mountain lodge kind of feel, like rustic wood tones, that sort of thing. So it was really cool. It was kind of very warm and welcoming to kind of come into. And this probably was just more perfect timing than anything, but as we get into the fall, I love to listen to all sorts of music, anything from the Migos to George Strait. So I kind of listen to the gamut of different things, but there's something about the fall and the standards. So getting into this time of year, I love to listen to Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, kind of those classic standards. To roll in and have them playing this cool jazz standards music just really set the tone. It was really nice change up from kind of the prototypical kind of, I was at a shop actually earlier just now, a shop that I really actually enjoy, and again they're kind of playing the more like modern hipster kind of music. But so to roll into a shop that was playing the standards was also awesome, especially in the fall. It just really set the tone for me personally. The other thing I noticed before we actually talk about their coffee was that it appeared that the person working the register was a little bit new. You could tell there's a little bit of nerves there, kind of checking things out, making sure that he got everything right. But the barista was able to kind of cover him. And even though I kind of picked up on that he was a little bit new, it never was uncomfortable. I was never worried about getting my order. There were even a couple mistakes, but that barista actually was there to kind of back him up. And so I liked that. I liked that it felt like it was probably a good work environment and that there's a good support system there. Just something that I noticed. So let's talk about the coffee. Again, they had oat milk. So if you know, I always buy a cappuccino. And yeah, the coffee was good. The vibe was really good. Just overall, I mean, really great shop. So I bought the shirt, yeah, as I mentioned earlier. So the second shop I went to was called Collective Espresso. And it's in a neighborhood that's going through a lot of change. It appears to at one point have probably potentially been a more lower income neighborhood that now maybe some money is coming into, kind of the whole gentrification thing, whatever your feelings are on that. But definitely there's kind of you can feel that there's a swing in the neighborhood, and whether that's good or bad, I'll kind of let people from Cincinnati let them make their better decisions on that, because I don't live there, so I'm not sure. But you can tell that it's a neighborhood that's going through some change. With that, the space is kind of located down kind of almost like a side alley in some respects. It's not really, the streets are a little narrower, and this kind of felt like an alley. And if I had to guess, the price per square foot there was a lot cheaper. Again, not knowing the owners of this shop and anything that they're doing, just by the tell and feel of the build out, potentially was somebody that was really interested in getting into specialty coffee and opening their own location. Found here where it's probably going to be a really good spot in the next 3 to 5 years, where there's going to be a lot of traffic, and it was a way for them to kind of get in now before somebody else did. So not a lot of money went into the build, very small build out, still a little rough around the edges, not a lot of seating. The bar kind of took up the whole area, but doing good things with coffee. So definitely something I would check out. The barista that was working there, she made my cappuccino. They had oat milk, which is another thing. And before I move on to the rest of the bill, we'll talk about the oat milk before I forget, because they served Minor Figures oat milk, and this was a little bit of a knock on them. I feel Minor Figures oat milk, it's just really kind of tart and overly sweet. And it's not like Minor Figures adds any sugar into their oat milk. It just has a weird, it's not super creamy for being an oat milk. It's kind of weird. So once I saw it pouring, I was like, oh crap, I'm not really gonna be able to taste the espresso, because this oat milk is going to kind of overpower that experience, where something like Oatly or Pacific Foods has an oat milk. Those are going to be a little bit more of an actual kind of milk texture and taste and creaminess, and so it's more like a traditional cappuccino if you're trying to avoid dairy products. So, or you can't have dairy, whatever the case may be. So, however, they were serving Madcap coffee when I was there. So Madcap, I believe, is out of Grand Rapids. So again, an amazing roaster, doing really great things. So again, I knew that it was going to be good, and it was still good. The barista that made me this, if she's watching and she's like, well, why didn't you finish the drink? Because you left like half of it there. It's because right after that I was going to another coffee shop that I wanted to check out. And so I know I kind of had to limit the amount of caffeine intake. And on to the final and the cliffhanger that I left you on, where I got kind of a surprise from an owner of a coffee shop. I went to Urbana, which was just about a mile away. I still think in this kind of like Rhine neighborhood. However, this part of town was really nice. You could tell it was something that has gone through a lot of change, a lot of good restaurants, that sort of thing there. So it's a really nice part of town. So again, if you were looking for a shop to kind of ride to or finish a ride at, this one would probably be a little bit better. I would feel more safe. I'd feel better about leaving my, really expensive road bike out front within sight's distance without worrying about it getting stolen or anything like that, even though it was only about a mile away from Collective Espresso. However, this shop was called Urbana, and pretty good. The build out was really nice. Obviously, compared to Collective Espresso, a lot more money went into this build out. More seating. They had like an upstairs area as well as the downstairs. Again, I just sat at the bar because I just kind of like to get a feeling for how the baristas are working, how they're interacting with the customers. Is it a good shop? What are some things that I picked up on? So the surprise that I got from I think it was the owner. By the conversations that this gentleman was having, I assumed that he was the owner, and the tone he was taking with the staff made me think he's at least in a senior level position there or an owner. Again, Urbana has 2 locations, so this is the one that's closer to downtown, not the one that's a little bit further north. Why was I surprised by this owner? So I'm sitting there and I'm kind of working away, drinking my coffee, and he's having a conversation with somebody else there, and somebody else, it sounds like they're interested in getting into coffee. Maybe he's thinking about wholesaling them coffee, I'm not sure, but there's some sort of conversation between him and his thoughts on what machine to get and all that stuff. So he's having that kind of conversation. It's totally fine. Having a business conversation in a coffee shop happens all the time. Maybe if it's your own business, maybe you want to conduct that somewhere else. But yeah, teach his own. I mean, I do business in coffee shops all the time. So no real problem there. Where things got interesting is that once his meeting ended, you're in kind of a tight space, and you can kind of tell by this video of me sitting there that there's not a lot of room, and you can really hear everybody's conversations. Again, right? Like I'm sitting at the bar and I can clearly hear his conversation. He starts talking to his staff, who is very friendly, helped me decide on the coffee I wanted, were educated about the coffee. I saw them interact with the other customers. So the baristas were really knowledgeable, really great and friendly. However, something that kind of just rubbed me the wrong way was when the owner kind of stands up in the middle of in this small space and just starts asking them sales figures. So they have a signature drink that's coming out that they did as like it's like a flat white thing, and don't even get me started on the flat white debate. It's a latte. So latte with some orange zest, but what do you want to? I mean, if you're in Australia, maybe it's a flat white. I don't know. Anyways, the whole flat white thing kills me. But it was a flat white with a little bit of orange zest, and so basically a latte with a little bit of orange zest. And he's like, "How many specialty drinks have we sold today?" And they're starting trying to pull reports from the register. I don't know. We've only done 7 lattes today. So as somebody who knows coffee, I'm like, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You've opened at 7 and you've sold 7 lattes today? Like, I would hope you'd at least do 7 lattes an hour. And if we know anything about coffee business, 60% of most specialty coffee shops are milk-based drinks. So 60% of your business has been 7 drinks, so you've maybe sold 13 drinks all day. I don't think you should be having a sales conversation number in front of your customer base while your customers are sitting there. And then it was just kind of also interesting how he was like directing his staff to wait on him while he was sitting there. Again, I don't know if this was the owner or just maybe an executive level person. I am not sure. But again, I was just like, this just doesn't create for a welcoming experience as a guest. I don't want to hear your sales figures. I don't want to hear you now directing your staff to wait on you hand and foot. And then another lady came in who appeared to be working there, and again he was talking about it was more sales and business stuff and kind of how great we are, and which is all fine and dandy, but maybe just not in front of your guests, especially like when other people are trying to conduct business or get things done. I don't know. I just don't want to hear about the back end of your business. I want to be served as a customer and welcomed as a customer, and not hear you boast about how great you are. And I think the other thing about Urbana the other part that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was that their coffee was good. And here I actually got black coffee instead of getting a cappuccino. And they actually gave me an Indonesian from Bali, and I'm typically not a fan of Indonesian-based coffees. This one was pretty good. The other interesting thing is that it kind of gave me a Starbucks kind of feel, and that like I had to go over to a hot pot and pour my own coffee. I think for the cost, you should serve me the coffee. I don't know, for $3.50 or whatever the cost was. But I will give it to the barista. I mean, he did rinse my mug, ran hot water under it so it was warm, and he did everything right in the process of allowing me to serve myself coffee. And maybe the refills are free. I didn't ask, so I guess makes it better on the staff if you can just go fill your own black coffee if you're hanging out, because then it's easier for the staff. It's not my position to judge how they're running their business. The purpose of this is just to try to understand what my thoughts were as a customer. And as a customer, I just didn't appreciate hearing the back ends of their business and them boasting about how great they are, which is fine. I think they are doing great things. They have a great shop. The coffee tasted good. Their service was really, the baristas that waited on me did everything really nice. So all that's aside, it's just, if you're an owner of a business, maybe have those conversations elsewhere off-site. Or I saw that they have a roastery like down the corner where they're roasting all their coffee, potentially for both locations. So maybe move those kind of meetings over there and just not have those in front of your guests. Just so that was kind of the only thing that kind of threw me off. So yeah, so the three that I went to, Cara Bello, or Cara Bello, I'm not sure how you say it. One note on Cara Bello, also, how awesome is it as somebody who loves coffee and bikes, their shirt also has a cool tandem, and the tandem is like up in the shop. So Cara Bello, you take the winner of best coffee in Cincinnati, and from my standpoint, and then I went to Collective Espresso and Urbana. So definitely, if you're in the Cincinnati area, check those out. If I get more time, there are definitely more shops I wanted to check out, but these kind of just my research hit the top three that I wanted to check out in the limited amount of time that I had there. So again, if you like these videos, click the little subscribe button, hit the notification bell. The more subscribers I get really just kind of helps me to keep creating content, helping you find amazing coffee on your next rides or helping you create cafe quality coffee at home. And as always, coffee, pedal, repeat.